There we go. I hear the train coming, it's rolling around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, time keeps dragging on. When I hear the train coming, and hello everyone, welcome aboard. It is your host and founder of this wild ride, Demetrius Villa. I just want to get it a little bit lightened up right here, I think. How about that? Let's switch hats a little bit. Maybe I'll continue it on later on, but conductor hat on. Here we go. I apologize for the jet engine in the background. I know we're the American Rail Club, but my laptop has been on the fritz. I have no clue why. I gotta open it. I know why it's doing that. The fans need to be replaced, but, that's just what it is right now. So, yeah, things have been going pretty crazy right now. I apologize for being gone for the last bit. The last 2 weeks have been absolutely pretty nuts. I was going to say, you got Thanksgiving and everything, so I said, I'm going to take a week off, why not, and then I'll come back on the next week, and then things start to get pretty crazy. Unfortunately, guys, long story short, I do have to break some pretty terrible news that happened last week. My cousin, Hector Lopez Jr., who has helped to really pick up the club when it first started out. He really helped to make things how it really started and everything. He unfortunately passed away very, very suddenly after a surgery. We still don't know exactly what happened yet, but please pray for the repose of his soul. He was very close to me too, and to Darius as well, my brother. If you remember the American Train, the documentary, is actually the executive producer because he really helped to fund that and make that happen. So please, guys, please pray for Hector Lopez Jr. Pray for the repose of his soul. And I'm really sorry to share that bit of news with everybody, but all right. But let me see. Hopefully, okay. Okay, good. So the audio is working. Okay, yeah. Again, guys, it's just sad. Everything. It's just like when it rains, it pours. Just bad things have been happening. That's the worst of it. I got sick last week as well, so my voice isn't all there. That's probably the fault of that. Let me go ahead and get the YouTube chat here started on the stream. I've just been all a mess over here, and then this little. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and see who's on. We got Adam Buser. We got the Great DNH, Gary DeMoss, Brian Rock Railfan, Clarissa Packer. Thank you, and guys, thank you for your condolences. You guys hear me? Let me see. Trying to make sure you guys can hear me all right. I've been messing around with the audio. I don't know what it is. Certainly not my microphone. It's definitely on my end of things. This is a pretty good microphone. It's a Blue Yeti. But let's get down to what's going on over here, because this is pretty intense what's been going on in terms of the rail strike. I was going to cover it last week, and then I got sick, so just trying to see if I can catch back up to it now with what's going on. But there's been a tentative deal at that, again, temporary. So things are not quite as where they need to be, but it's, let's be honest, I'm not thrilled with where things are going, and it doesn't seem like things are actually going to really get fixed. Let me fix this up over here. I'm a mess today. This is what happens when you don't stream for a good bit. But anyway, yeah, so there was some legislation that was passed from a 96-year-old law that has been in the books in order to avert rail strikes. Of course, you don't have this for airlines or anything else, or for road workers or anything like that. But for railroads, we do, because it's been getting to the point where they can't keep pushing this on any longer. But anyway, here you go. So the House passed legislation, this was last Wednesday, to force a tentative rail labor agreement and thwart a national strike. The bill now goes to the Senate, where Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has promised with passage, and it was passed and also then passed through the by President Biden as well. So much for pro-unions and all that sort of stuff. Whoever voted for Biden thinking he was going to be pro-union, well, you got yourself shafted, just like everybody else in politics does. We all trusted somebody once in a while, right? This is why I'm completely done with trusting any sort of politician. I've been done. So here we are. So in a separate, they've gone, 7 days of sick paid leave. Here we are. So in a separate 221 to 207 vote, the House also approved the resolution to provide 7 days of paid sick leave in the contract instead of 1, which is rail workers' main disagreement with the current deal. As it stands, rail workers do not have guaranteed paid sick leave, and we've discussed a little bit where this has gone, but we're going to go a little more into precision scheduled railroading in this stream, so you guys do have a little bit of a background if you don't already have so yet. So the vote comes after President Joe Biden called on Congress to intervene in the stalled talks between railroads and some of the industry's major unions. He met with 4 House and Senate leaders on Tuesday in an effort to avoid the economic impact of a rail strike. That was again last week. So they had until December the 9th to reach an agreement before the workers promised to strike. They're just pushing it back now and really hammering on that. It's like, all right, you're not striking. That's it. That's what they're doing until after the holidays, at least, and then they'll probably take the boot off the neck of the unions and the railroad workers. But let's see. In a statement Tuesday, the Brotherhood of Maintenance and Railways Employees Division of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters said passing legislation to enforce an agreement denies them the right to strike and will not fix the problems or concerns of railroad workers. That's right, because this has been going on for quite a while. And here we are. This is from the Association of American Railroad Workers. Quote, if the unions are interested in a holistic discussion for structural change as it relates to their sick time, I think absolutely the railroad carriers would be up for a holistic discussion. But they have not done it in the 0 hour. AAR President and CEO Ian Jeffries said at a press conference on rail preparations. Each union has its own sick day policy according to the National Railway Labor Conference, or NRLLC. If an employee is sick, they need to be out of work between 4 and 7 days before they collect their version of sick pay. The tentative labor agreements, again, the sick pay is part of it. There's a lot more that's going on in terms of workers' pay per hour, etc. There's a lot that's going on into this. At a time of record profits in the railroad industry, this is from Bernie Sanders. We know Bernie Sanders is actually pretty supportive of railroads, and he has been, but what he says is different than what he does, honestly, because is anybody who had supported Bernie back in 2016, if you didn't get burned the first time, you're gonna get burned again, really. God, we all know what happens with him. When he gets a little bit of pressure, he cracks. He cracks like he cracks like a matzah, just like that. At a time of record profits in the rail industry, it's unacceptable that rail workers have zero guaranteed pay sick days. I agree, Bernie. It's my intention to block consideration of the rail legislation until a roll cast vote occurs on guaranteeing 7 paid sick days to rail workers in America. So this is what's been going on. Again, if we do get to the strike, this is what we look at over here, what we get to see. Oh, now I'm just going to block half of it. Okay, but anyway, okay, so 96 hours prior, hazardous material shipments will be halted. Again, when a shutdown happens, because it's not a matter of if, it's going to be a matter of when. It's going to happen. 72 to 48 hours prior, rail yards begin prepping. Amtrak stops long-distance trains. Because again, those trains go through multiple states, so you're talking about multi-state workers. 48 hours prior, hold trains at customer locations. And also, if you have these trains that are halfway through, a multi-day journey, 72 hours and so, if you have railroad strikers striking and those freight trains are moving, then Amtrak gets stuck. So it's only feasible thing for them to do is to prepare and stop long distance in anticipation for a strike. 48 hours prior, hold trains at customer locations. 24 hours prior, cancel or consolidate trains. Notify commuters of service suspension. 12 hours prior, last trains allowed to leave the rail yards. And then 0 hours, we're talking intermodal yard shutdown, a complete shutdown of, basically total shutdown of America's railroad network. I mean, there may be some, but we're talking about total shutdown. Let's see. So, Corey Rosenbusch, president of the CEO of the Fertilizer Institute, said railroad carriers have told their members that ammonia shipments, a critical component for fertilizer companies, would not be allowed on the rail starting December 4th if a labor agreement isn't reached. And again, we know how crazy our whole economy is interconnected. If you don't have ammonia, you don't have fertilizer. If you don't have fertilizer, basically don't have food, because this country is so dependent on cornmeal, so dependent on a interconnected national chain of farmers, because we're not connected to a local community anymore as much as we used to be. I'm starting to find more locally produced stuff. I've started getting locally produced milk. I'm trying to find a source of locally produced eggs and a whole bunch of other stuff. I've been starting to grow a garden for the last year or two. Trying to expand it next year when the spring comes along. So, this is the type of things I've been telling you guys. You guys got to start preparing for. Start getting locally involved, because this sort of stuff, these national sort of shutdowns, is going to affect everybody. So, again, continuing on here, it traditionally takes 5 to 7 days for supply chains to catch up when you have a shutdown, said Rosenbusch. Fertilizer manufacturing would have to be curtailed. The 4 major railroads typically move more than 80% of the agricultural freight traffic, according to the National Grain and Feed Association. We are looking for alternatives now to position our products, said Mike Seifert, the association's president and CEO. We have zero elasticity right now. There are 0 drivers, and the barge situation with low water levels has only added to this challenge. So to add on top of the railroad strikes, you have a massive shortage of drivers in the freight trucks, which I don't know. It was funny because last week we had some guy who was apparently a truck driver who got all ticked off or whatnot, which I never said anything about freight truck drivers or whatnot. All I've been saying for the last several years, I've been saying is just improve our railroad infrastructure. I never threatened his job or anything like that. But it seems to be he's probably one of the guys that isn't working at the moment right now. And it's, for some reason, it's my fault. Well, you know what? I don't care. That's his fault. You know what? Grow some balls and grow some responsibility. But apart from that, there are people, and a lot of them, most people who do work in trucking are very hardworking. Again, Holly's brother has been a trucker for many years, and they've been working these people to the bone. Not only that, I mean, you're lucky if you have union. If you have a union membership, you're able to keep a lot of your benefits, and you're able to be a little bit more flexible than if you weren't on it. But the problem is that a lot of oncoming truckers right now, they're not getting paid the same wages, nowhere near as much as they should be getting. They're working a massive amount of hours as to the maximum as they can. And that's including the Obama break included in there, the mandated Obama break. But it's been pretty crazy, guys. But you know, so again, I'm talking about this when it comes to grain and feed, because a lot of the grain and feed in this country is corn. And we grow way too much corn, let's be honest. And that's something to do with the FDA regulations. It's having to do that we've big corn, big agri in this country has completely overrun farming, and the only cash crop that you can basically do is corn and soybeans. So forget any other sort of crops that may work, you know, like wheat or any sort of stuff. You can do those, but you're never going to make the amount of money that you make doing corn and soy. So any farmer that wants to make a good amount of money on the amount of acreage that he has is going to most likely pick those two. Of course, you still have farmers growing a whole bunch of other different stuff, but you know, at that stage, they're doing it for a local community. They're doing it to go against the grain. You see what I did there? Go against the grain. And they're doing it because they don't believe in growing corn and soy. Corn and soy, corn and soy. So yeah, this is the thing. We feed our cattle that should be getting grass-fed is getting fed corn. So guess what? All the beef prices go up because now there's not enough beef. Pork prices go up. Chicken prices go up. Egg prices go up. And then milk goes up. And then every other food that uses any of those ingredients goes up. So you see the problem that we're getting at. It's a double whammy here and there. Oh, not more than double. It's all over the place, and farmers have already been suffering already, you know, under the tyranny of what is known as John Deere, with DOM blocking any sort of maintenance on their tractors because it's all, you know, connected to the computer of the John Deere. And I remember when I worked at Cummins, the Great American Diesel Company. Which is not so great anymore. But regardless, I remember working for them, and I worked in the aftermarket industry, and this is the type of stuff that they wanted to do to their engines. Instead of having people work on their own engines, instead of having companies work on their own engines, they wanted to basically block it away and require that only Cummins distributors or Cummins approved maintenance workers can be able to access the CRM or the chips in the engine and be able to do any work on that. And I say you're gonna tick off a lot of people and a lot of our customers, you know. But the problem is that a lot of these companies are just short-term related, and we're gonna get into that also too. It's being run by Wall Street. This is the problem. We're capitalizing everything, right? The problem is that capital should be used to help the nation, right? Capital is a tool. Capital, the money in your pocket, the liquid money, well, the money is fake anyway, but the money that we have should be used to help people, not people being used to help capital. This is the problem that we have over here, and we're using people, we're using our own nation, we're using our own resources to grind ourselves down for the benefit of a few, for the benefit of capital, when capital should be for the benefit of the nation. This is why we have it all backwards over here. Okay, this form of corporatocracy, this form of capitalism that we have in this country, is completely destroying us. It's basically it's not working. Again, it's nothing to do against capitalism. It's this form of capitalism that we're doing, which is basically, and we have a communist government at this point. So it's two sides of the same coin. You have capitalism and communism, right? Two sides of the crappy coin. Oh man, but anyway, okay. Here's another thing. David Jackson that made a good comment over here. The railroad management is overpaid and the workers are overworked. Yeah, it's true. So the management, this is the other issue here in the United States. You have a lot of middle management, a lot of fake jobs. Okay, a lot of fake jobs in this country where there's people in middle management that aren't doing anything. And I've met these people. I've worked with a lot of these people in my life. Thankfully, the company that I'm working with, everybody is very much working with each other, so I don't have that sort of problem with what I'm working at right now. But I can tell you in corporate America, you have, if you're working, let's say, a strategic planning, right? Then you have a strategic planning manager. There's like two people who do strategic planning. And then there's a manager that does basically telling the other two what to do for him while he's working on pet projects. And you see this anywhere, whether you work in finance or whether you work in accounting, whether you work in marketing or etc. You have this middle management, most likely some Gen Xer or younger baby boomer who's had that job for way too long, and basically they gave him an upper level, him or her an upper level to do something, to get an excuse to have a larger salary, right? So they're not really the ones doing the work, and they're not really directing much of anything, because the guy on top of them is the one directing them what to do, and then they're directing the guy what to do. So you see the same issue now in the railroad, where you have a lot of people who are working in management that they're not actually working on the rails. They're not actually doing anything that's very productive. They're just the guys in the office that are playing telephone, because they're not calling the shots. They're playing telephone. Okay, I do recommend, if any of you guys haven't seen, and if you're getting sick and tired of Christmas movies, I do recommend that you see Office Space. If you haven't seen Office Space by Mike Judge, the guy who did Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill. I loved King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead when I was younger. I love those two. But if you guys have not seen Office Space, you owe it to yourself to see it. Because this is sort of the issue that we're seeing, not just in the railroad, but all of America. The whole system is going to collapse. Okay, it's just a matter of when it's going to collapse. And this is sort of the issue. If people get hungry, okay, because this, honestly, I think the rail strike can be really the biggest straw that finally breaks the sick camel's back. The sick camel of a country. But, okay, hopefully you guys can hear me. If you can hear me on the chat on YouTube, just say a 1. Just put 1 in the chat. Oh, man. Everything is just... I'm doing the best that I can, guys. I'm doing the best that I can. I gotta. This is my bad. I gotta stream more. I actually gotta get videos in. And I know I said I was gonna get that video in. I'm still working on it. We'll get that video in hopefully by some time. This will happen. I'm not gonna make any promises, because every time I do, I guess I jinx it and then it never happens. But anyway, okay, good. You guys can hear me. Thank you. Yeah, Office Space, funny how that movie continues to be relevant. Yes, Mike Ovelic. It was actually Holly that got me into that movie after I got canned from Cummins, and I was really ticked off. I was ticked off, all that work that I was doing, and they just go ahead and sham me and sham a whole bunch of other people too, because I wasn't just the only one getting knocked out. For our department to be spending millions of dollars and travel to China and then find an excuse to get rid of a guy who's not even... I wasn't even getting anywhere, close to $70,000 a year, not even, and they find, oh, that's a way that we can save money, after spending $20 million in travel to China, let's go ahead and get rid of the little guy. No, I don't care, and you know what, if one of them comes after me, if they say some sort of deposition, I'm going to rip it up. They say send someone over the house. Well, good luck. Good luck. I really don't care anymore. And people need to start talking back. Okay, that's what we need to do at these work. But speaking of, imagine if somebody, starts getting hungry at jobs and they start figuring out how little it really does affect, how really little it's really helping them. How these corporations are helping. You're going to see a lot of angry people. Okay, it's already getting bad on the road. Road rage is getting intense and insane that I don't just carry my pistol on me everywhere that I go, but I carry my rifle in my car now every time I go somewhere because it's just getting bad. Okay, because I try to get away from everybody, but you just have some people that just have a screw loose. Now, thankfully, I haven't been in any sort of road rage incident at all for at least a good several months or so. Okay, and I don't ever start anything with anybody. I don't want to be, I just want to go home. I just want to go somewhere. Okay, that's the last thing you do is you try to instigate something or try to keep something going. If you see somebody trying to make, flipping fingers at you, doing some other thing or whatever, throwing something at you, let them go. Go away. If you need to turn off the highway for a bit and go to the gas station and just relax for a bit. Hopefully the gas station is not somewhere in a bad part of town, if you know what I mean. But, if you need to get off the highway, if you need to, make another turn and get away from this person, go ahead. And if they keep following you, then, hopefully if you know where a police station is, just go over there and just, see what happens. And if it worse comes to worse, then, well, I hope you're strapped and packed. But anyway, it's just, look, this is what's going on. We've talked about this before in previous streams. It's going to get worse before it gets better. That's just the reality of where things are headed. That's just where this country is going. So you guys need to start, getting more dependent on yourselves. This is what's going on. But anyway, let's see if there's anything else in this article. I don't think so. But we'll go into the next ones. Again, this was one how an arcane 96-year-old law stopped the rail strike. And I hate these little things over here, the fear and greed index. This whole country has been on greed. Do you think the Dow being over 30K, does that help anybody? Do you feel 30K richer, guys? Do you feel it? You feel the stocks? Oh, by the way, this whole thing with FTX, I think we covered that last month. But this is, again, nothing's going to happen to that guy. Nothing's going to happen to him. He's going to be long gone. Long gone. Untouchable. Okay, so the Railway Labor Act was passed in 1926. And I had, what's the crazy thing? I did all these articles. I read through all these articles. I made highlights. And then Brave Browser decided to pull off a Chrome and stopped working. So I had to close it, restart it, and all my highlights are gone. Even though I went ahead and reinstalled a new highlight extension that was supposedly going to keep the highlights every time I reopened the page. No, I reopened this page, and I saw my highlights slowly disappear. So not only did I get, lied to and said that, oh yeah, your highlights will be there. Not only that, but the highlights, I just started seeing it before my eyes, just slowly disappearing, just popping away. So I said, forget it. Now I have to go ahead and read through this and find the points that I looked at before. But anyway, so the Railway Labor Act was passed in 1926 as one of the first labor laws in the nation. Now, at that point, was it necessary? Because railroads were the only way to get really moving stuff around in the country. There were roads, but they were most of the roads in this country were mostly dirt roads at that point in the 1920s. It wasn't until McDonald came along, forget his first name. It's not Norm McDonald. I forget his first name, but anyway, he was the head of the roadways. Now I forget the name of that one too. And I had these notes here and everything. But he was the head of that and started, the rudimentary process of actually building roads in this country after World War I. Okay. So because of the law, the House was able to vote yesterday to impose unpopular contracts on four rail unions, whose members have already rejected the terms, followed by a vote in the Senate vote last Thursday that did the same. The measure now goes to President Biden. This was in the Friday, so he did sign it. Who will sign it. When he does, there will no longer be a chance of a December 9th strike that would have shut down about 30% of the nation's freight shipments. A prolonged strike would have caused shortage of a wide range of items, from food to gasoline to automobiles, and likely resulted in a spike of prices. And the prices have already been getting bad already. So, what's more inflation? The eggs that I had back in July of 2020 were 72 cents. Now they're $2.92 a dozen. It's... How much worse can it get? How much worse? The House also passed a law that would give the unions paid sick days. By the way, spoiler alert, how much worse can it get? Very much worse. Addressing the issue, they led members to reject the deals. But the efforts to pass the same measure in the Senate fell short. Even though 52 of 95 senators voted for it, the measure needed 60 votes to pass the Senate. Under the Railway Labor Act, the federal agency that oversees railroad and airline labor relations is the National Mediation Board, which tries to bring the two sides together and set up a series of limits and cooling off periods during which unions cannot strike and management cannot lock out the workers. And if all those efforts fail, then Congress can step in and impose a contract under which both sides will have to operate. And none of that has happened. There's really been no mediation to come to the table. So Congress is just jumping the gun and doing it themselves. The goal of the Railway Labor Act was to reduce the likelihood of a work stoppage, said Ian Jeffries, the CEO of the Association of American Railroad Workers, the trade group that represents the railroad. And it's been remarkably effective in doing that. As much as management likes the laws and its limits and strikes, the unions hate it. Why wouldn't they? They said it would be far easier to reach a deal with their members can support if they had the leverage of a possible strike. And they said that management, when weighing the cost of that possible strike, would realize that they have the resources needed to meet those demands without actual work stoppage. So, because you have the big wigs up and top, and they've been able to... the 1926 labor law is a little bit too far removed to say that this has been a long way coming. But... even today's standards, you have a lot of the big wigs up top putting in a lot of regulations or lobbying regulations that really hurt the workers down at the bottom, and it makes it more expedient for them to be able to make more money, to be able to make a higher revenue. That's sort of the issues that we're making revenue in spite of workers. You're making revenue despite whatever the workers of their needs and of their wants and what their goals want of the needs, right? Because you have a lot of workers that it's not just having a job that makes you feel that you're doing something, but also that job makes you moderately comfortable. At least that it will be able to pay for a living wage, be able to pay for housing, be able to pay for food, be able to pay for at least a middle class living style, right? And you had that before, even in the United States back in the 1950s, where even if you were a janitor working at General Motors, you still were able to afford a house. Your wife could stay at home. You would have multiple kids. You don't have that anymore, and if you do have that, you either have to have a very high-paying job or you have to make a lot of sacrifice. It's still possible. It very much is possible, but not at a living standard to be at your typical middle-class living standard in this country. The whole middle class has been completely... That's another thing that's going... It's already gone. It's just people are just finally... starting to realize that hasn't been attainable, because the other thing that's been increasing along with inflation has been borrowing. So people have been borrowing, whether through credit card debt or whether through loans, etc. They're doing this in order to keep up their living standards. So they're living way above their means. It wasn't like you were living at your means back in the 1950s and 60s, and even up to the 1980s and 90s. Okay, people didn't have to take a massive 30-year mortgage at that rate. I mean, they had a massive down payment on the home, so they could pay a very low mortgage and have it all paid off pretty quickly if they wanted to. At this rate, you can't even do that. People are even, mortgaging or remortgaging their houses in order to get a car, or getting a loan, or several loans in order to get a car, because people don't even own their own cars anymore. They don't even work on their own cars anymore. The whole thing has been falling apart, and I'm sorry to be all, doom and gloom in a time of Christmas, but, oh, man. But anyway, so here we go. I don't think it's anyone's goal to get Congress involved, but Congress has shown a willingness historically to intervene if necessary, said A.R. Jeffries. The problem is that they're jumping the gun and doing it instead of letting the way things happen as they're supposed to. Let's see. The railroads refuse to accept the union demands for paid sick days. It can't even give 7 paid sick days. Jeffries also said the railroads would only agree to make changes in sick days rules if it's within the framework of the proposal put forth by a presidential panel this summer that was charged with trying to find a compromise agreement. So this has been going on since the summer. We've all been sort of following that. And it's gone ahead over to the winter. Now, the unions could break the contract, and they could strike anyway. And let's say, for example, if that does happen, you do have a strike anyway that happens, and the companies do lock out the workers from working in anyway, or they start trying to find scab workers. Well, good luck finding scab workers, because here's the thing. You have to go ahead and train people in order to operate a lot of this machinery. So it's not like they can do that. Okay, I think we're offline a bit. Now we're online a bit. Okay. So just in case if you guys on the stream missed that, what I just said in the past 5 minutes. So let's say again, if the railroaders do strike, and let's say the companies do lock them out, it's going to be hard, next to impossible to find new workers in this state, because you have to find not only you have to find people that are trained, or you have to train them yourselves, but at the going rate for railroad workers. And imagine scab workers at that. It's not like any job like you can go ahead and hire somebody from a third world country, or let's say from a tech worker from India, in order to go ahead and do something for pennies on the dollar of an American worker. It's not like that for a railroad. You have to have a physical person in there or on the equipment and be able to operate the equipment. And of course, it's not just the trains themselves, it's all the ancillary equipment around there to get that. The switchers, all the equipment to load on the cargo and everything else. So there's a lot of stuff you can. So imagine the people who are getting already shafted, being paid the wages they are. Imagine if you have scab workers at scab rates. Okay. Yeah, it's another good thing that one of our commenters has put. Dean C. Many workers will either take retirement or leave, causing strike-like conditions. That's absolutely true, and we've seen a lot of this, in the last 2 years, where the pandemic has either had companies, because they didn't want to, they finally had a way, they had an excuse to get rid of some older workers that have been there. They finally had an excuse to get rid of them and force them all into retirement. And this happened to my dad back in 2016. He worked with the company for 27 years, and he wasn't no middle management either. He was, he was doing a lot of the work too on the computers and stuff, and setting up a lot of the framework for Royal Caribbean. And you had the same thing happen there too. You had a forced retirement. Excuse me, just had a mute to do a cough in there. But yeah, it's been getting pretty hectic. You're going to see a lot of this happen more often now, especially with a lot of workers that will be retiring. If they see no hope from this, they'll just take the early retirement and then go do something else for a couple of years. But then that's the thing, you lose somebody that you've paid a lot into in order to train, who's familiar with the equipment, who's familiar with the way everything works in there, and then you have to get somebody else. And unfortunately in this country, and whether it's I think it was partially, not partially, I think it was very much done on purpose in this country, where you've had this dissuasion of a lot of younger people to be working in blue collar work. You don't have that. It's not saying that you don't have it, right? But you don't have the necessary number of younger people who are trained and willing to work on the railroad. I know a lot of us would be. I know we would. But it's not like you can go, just walk into railroading school and get trained. It's not like it was back then. You can't even just walk onto the job and just say, hey, I'd like to work on the railroad, and then just be working that day or work the next day. And then you just learn everything as time goes on. No, because you have to go ahead and you have to go to the person in HR, and if you go there, even if you have a resume and everything and you're dressed and ready to go for the job, I'm sorry sir, you have to go ahead and go on our website and sign up for the job there. And then you go ahead and go up on online to go to their job board and sign up on there, which by the way, if you've seen a lot of these jobs, and these are like entry-level jobs, like on LinkedIn. Let's say you're just it's like an analyst level job at a Fortune 500, not even a Fortune 500 company, just any sort of whatever ABC corporation in America, right? I'm guaranteeing you, and I've seen this, you'll see 400 other people and it will be applying for the same job, for an analyst position, an entry-level $45,000 a year analyst position, which in today's money, that doesn't really pay that much anyway for today's inflation. And the rates have not actually gone up, okay? It probably won't even be work from home. And if you do work from home, it'll probably be maybe like a hybrid sort of thing where you work one day from home. You don't even get to do that, even though you're doing nothing in the office. Then they'll go ahead and you'll see that there's 20% of the applicants either have professional level degrees, so they have MBAs or master's degrees for an entry-level analyst position. So there's 400 other people scrambling over each other like crabs in a bucket in order to get the entry-level analyst position at some, not even, some of these are not even like any good name companies, they're just like no-name companies. This is how desperate people are for work, but the problem is we've made so many people dependent on getting service industry type jobs that we barely have anybody or any, younger people working in blue-collar work. And this was done on purpose because a lot of the larger companies have pushed through legislation within the past several decades to push manufacturing outside of the United States because it'd be cheaper to go ahead and get it done in some sweatshop in Vietnam rather than paying an American worker an actual living working wage. It's very sick, and we're seeing the entire thing. This is tangentially related. What's going on with this rail strike is tangentially related, because if you had a lot younger people, a younger cohort of people working on the railroad, a much larger cohort, this wouldn't be happening. Okay, because they'd have a lot more energy, and they probably would have already walked off the job, or already would have changed the entire, or at least put it this way, helped to change some of the culture within the freight railroad industry. But we don't have that, and in fact, it probably wouldn't even happen anyway, because look at how numerous millennials are within the service industry, and they haven't been able to change much of that either. Okay, millennials make up 70% of the workforce and only have 4% of the purchasing power within the country. Baby boomers back in the 80s, at the same age that us millennials are at now, had more than 40-50% of the purchasing power. So it's obvious that the whole system is broken. It has broken. It's not that it is broken. It has broken. Okay? It's just that most people are still having to sign the rose-colored glasses. No, the American dream, it's still here. The American dream is still here. It's like what the comedian, you know who I'm saying. Darn, I keep forgetting his name every single time. He voiced the Thomas thing. George Carlin. Now as I start typing it, I remember. George Carlin. What he said about the American dream. They call it the American dream because you have to be asleep in order to believe in it. Okay? This is what we're looking at, right? Let me see. No, that's not the solution. What solution? The sick days are still needed. People still get sick. I'm not quite sure what the context is. The solution to what? But anyway, yeah, you guys on the chat are a little bit behind. I understand. Don't worry. I may have to just order another Ethernet cable for this, because I put it to something else and I forgot to take the Ethernet cable out and put it back into the laptop over here. That's not going to fix the jet engines going on underneath there, but anyway, this was just bad design by Asus. They made a plastic backing underneath over here and didn't put enough holes, so I had to actually take off the plastic backing, drill some holes into there, go ahead and reapply some thermal paste on there, and if anything, it maybe took down the top load Celsius by 5 degrees maybe. It still runs at like 75 degrees or something like that just on idle, which is kind of ridiculous. So I may probably just switch to the other laptop that I have. That was Holly's laptop, which is basically the better version of the Strix, the 2-year more current version, but I don't know. Let's see. So here, this is funny. So, but only 4 of the 12 senators issued the statement. Sanders, Kristen Gillibrand of New York, Jeff Merkley of Oregon, and Elizabeth Warren, Massachusetts, voted against imposing the unpopular contracts. The other 8 who signed a statement: Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, Cory Booker of New Jersey, Sherrod Brown of Ohio, Ed Markey of Massachusetts, Alex Padilla of California, Tina Smith of Minnesota, Jack Reed and Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island all joined the 80-15 vote in favor of imposing the contracts to block the strike. So all 4 of these, I believe, are all Democrats. I know Sanders says himself as independent. He votes 99% of the times with the Democrats. Give me a break, okay? But it was mostly, you had some Democrats. The Republicans are going to, swing whichever way anyway. So it's not like you're going to see a massive, support from the Republicans anyway. The best, I guess the unions could have is just that it's just sad that either one of the political parties really don't do much of anything anymore. It is a uniparty. Okay, so last article concerning the American rail strike. Oh, you think it's just happening in America? Oh, you sad little child. No. It seems the British, that I'm British. I'm trying to pretend I have bad teeth over there. The British may be having a spot of trouble here too. Oh dear. But anyway. Oh man. Okay, alright, so DNC replied about having more young workers. No, it wouldn't solve it, and I know I said that yet later on. It wouldn't solve it. I agree with you, because the younger workers haven't even solved their own issues in the industry, okay, in the service industry or wherever they're working at, okay, because we're all under the thumb of big business over here. So anyway, here's from the New Yorker. Now, I get that the New Yorker is pretty left-wing. Somebody, I remember when I was younger, I think when I was like 11 or 12 years old, somebody gifted me like a 2-year subscription to the New Yorker. So I mean, I would read it just to see what was going on, and just to, because it would be good for me to mold my mind or whatever. Honestly, I thought it was kind of trash. It's 80 years out of date and irrelevant. But anyway, this article is actually pretty good. It's by John Cassidy, a columnist on the New Yorker. The averted national rail strike is a parable of contemporary American capitalism. And again, for those of us who are more right wing, again, the term capitalism. Okay, the problem with modern capitalism is that it's not like, and here's the thing. Laissez-faire capitalism doesn't work because somebody has to pull the levers somewhere. The levers of the market is not going to be pulled by the free market. It's going to be pulled by the bigwigs, because they're eventually going to figure out that the free market doesn't really have power, and they can figure out whatever you have. You'll have some guy that they'll hire, like some Edward Bernays type of marketing dude, to go ahead and poison the water. That's the thing. You have a poisoned market. So it doesn't really work that way. And for those of you guys that are still on the libertarian train, you got to start seeing this, that it doesn't really work the way that all these how it could supposedly work or whatever, or how it should work according to whatever. It doesn't. It's not working. You're seeing how it's going right now. Certainly, it doesn't mean that we start, imposing a communist government. Absolutely not, because that just amplifies this. That makes it even worse. It takes that to 11. But anyway, we're not going to talk about any sort of... I already told you guys, the solution you're going to have to work on is it's got to be locally... You got to start working local. You got to start thinking local, acting local. That's the way you got to do this. Okay? In our click-driven world, the threatened strike at America's freight railroads and President Biden's intervention to prevent it represents last week's news. But there are two groups for which the averted rail strike is very much front and center. The 115,000 rail workers who will be forced to work under the terms of contract agreement that the White House and Congress imposed upon them after some rail unions rebuffed a deal mediated by the administration, and the managers and owners of the railroads who will get back to running what these days is an immensely lucrative and suspiciously monopolistic business. Okay, and this just came out yesterday. So this is still very, very relevant. Much of the news coverage of the contract dispute focused on the railroad's refusal to grant their workers paid sick leave. But this intransigence was only one aspect of a larger parable of modern American capitalism. Unfolding in one of the country's oldest and most far-flung industries is a story of deregulation, consolidation, downsizing, underinvestment, intensification of work practices. Most of all, though, it is a story of financialization, prioritization, blah. Okay, it's a lot of... We're getting into a lot of word soup here. Again, I apologize because I've already had the points here. I had it highlighted. And Google Chrome, because Google can't make a crappy product, can't make a good product anymore. And then Brave browser is just basically an extension of Google Chrome. They just de-Google-fied most of everything. But they still don't cut out all the crappy stuff out of Chrome, so it eats up your RAM, and then it crashes, even though this laptop is running 16 gigs of RAM. And I'm not going to get 32 gigs of RAM for this laptop. I'm done dumping money into this laptop. I'm going to put it into the next one, into the next streaming bit, but it's just kind of ridiculous. But anyway, during the lockdowns early in the coronavirus pandemic, the railroads accelerated their job cuts and capacity reductions. When demand rebounded last year, many shippers faced chronic delays, cancellations, and in one case, a temporary suspension of service on key routes between the West Coast and Chicago. Again, Chicago being a major freight hub. Freight railroad service is abysmal. Representative Peter DeFazio, the chair of the House Committee on Transportation Infrastructure, complained at a hearing last year. This appalling service is forcing shippers to recoup their extra costs downstream, and Americans are paying for it with increased food costs and at the gas pump. So it goes into, how the modern freight industry was deregulated, how it went into all of that, etc. Again, I can leave this over here, but we're going to the more important points, right? And how some of the monopolies and whatnot. This is sort of the bigger point over here. Meanwhile, industry profitability and payments to shareholders have been soaring. Between 2011 and 2021, according to Oberman, Martin J. Oberman, Surface Transportation, this STB chair, the big railroad spent $191 billion on dividends and stock buybacks. Where have we seen this before? We saw that before with the airlines. Remember that? Remember what happened to the airlines? This is a complete difference between what happened with the airlines during the pandemic and what's going on now. So, take it back to 2020, right? To about March or May of 2020. Remember when the bigwigs at the airlines, all the American airlines, United, Delta, American, etc., all these airlines saying that if the government doesn't pay up $40 billion, we're going to start firing a whole bunch of people. We're just going to start letting go of a whole bunch of people. And what did the United States do? And especially because all these airlines for the last several years, okay, they kept giving themselves stock buybacks. They start getting themselves big dividends all the way back. The workers at the airlines didn't see it. The guy having the putting the baggage, he didn't even see $1 raise. He didn't see any of that. This is the sort of stuff that doesn't happen. Here's a story. So when I was working back at Cabela's, back in February, they had this little suggestion board, right? And you could tell that a lot of these things were astroturfed by the HR representative there at Cabela's. Having peanut butter jelly, sandwich day or stuff like that. And she put little cards that were They had, I kid you not, they had flowers and they had smiley face stickers on there. So they had the suggestion board, this anonymous that you could just put up a card on the suggestion board, and they had pins, so you could vote for the suggestion that you wanted by putting pins on the card. So they had this thing, it's like, the suggestion who wins at the end of the month will be decided upon, right? So I decided to put in an actual suggestion. I asked, and this is my suggestion, a $1 raise for everybody, just a $1 raise for everybody because of the massive increase in gas prices and in food, right? That's all we had, and we had a very, very, very successful Christmas. Okay, make a lot of money on Christmas, so there was still a lot of money around in the company, right? Especially since they had money to go ahead and pay for peanuts and peanut butter jelly sandwich day. But regardless, I put up this card, and by the 2 days later, there was a whole lot of pins on that card. Not on the AstroTurf HR made suggestions, though. Those were getting passed by. Nobody even touched those. Those were like, they had the coof on those. But by the end of the week, and remember, this suggestion board was supposed to be a month. By the end of the week, it was bare. Gone. The suggestion board had disappeared out of a trace, thin air, just poof. Gone. It was back to being a plain cork board. They didn't even have the backing at the back, the pet back. Anyway, this is the problem. There is such a disconnect between the middle management and upper management of these companies that they think their workers care about peanut butter jelly sandwich day, or this crappy thing like treating their workers like their children. We literally got bananas. One day, they had a whole bowl of bananas at Cabela's. Okay, and I've been out of working in the service industry. I just picked up the job because it was in between about everything that was going on. I just had to get something to keep myself sane after everything that had gone on in the last year. Feeding us like monkeys. Giving us bananas like if we're some sort of monkeys. This is just ridiculous. This is the problem that a lot of American companies, they treat their workers like if it's some sort of school, like it's an extension of school. Okay, but this is the problem that you see, is this disconnect, this massive disconnect. So what happened going back to what happened at the airlines back in 2020, they got $40 billion from the government. There was no multi-month dissension like we're seeing going on with the railroads. Because for the railroads, we have to keep pushing the strike back. But if Big Papa whatever in airlines ask for $40 billion, they get $40 billion from the U.S. government. I mean, they have more power than a Metal Gear Solid villain over here, asking for, a hostage situation, asking for $1 billion to release the president. No, $40 billion, and the U.S. of A. folded and they bent over, stripped down their pants, and just let them have it. This is ridiculous, okay? But for the railroads, again, the railroad companies are doing the same thing. Which again, it's a little bit different because they're not asking for money; they're asking for a way to keep shafting their workers. They keep asking to keep the stick. That's the problem. It's very much a very lopsided situation. Very lopsided. So this is what we're seeing here happening. It's intense. It's insane. But here we go. So they got themselves. The big railroads spent giving their investors, the people who don't work on the actual railroad. They didn't even go ahead and they spend nearly that amount of money on even repairs or maintenance or upgrades or anything like that. No, they're paying themselves. Everybody deserves to get paid a little bit here and there back. But this is just oh man. Again, look at that. They spent $91 billion on dividends and stock buybacks. Okay, far more than the $138 billion they spent on capital investments in the industry's infrastructure. Okay, So they spent $138 billion on capex on and that could be a whole number of things, maintenance, fixing up the railroads, upgrades, etc. No, they spent themselves even more. That's the problem with this disconnect, what I keep saying about. $191 billion on dividends and stock buybacks. Okay? Where would rail customers, rail workers, and the public be if meaningful portion of that $191 billion had been reinvested in expanding service and making service more predictable, reliable, and on time, Oberman asked. Much of the impetus for the cost cuts and layoffs came from Wall Street, where activist investors have taken stakes in railroad and demanded changes and higher profits. The process began more than a decade ago when the Children's Investment Fund Management, a London-based hedge fund, invested in CSX and is still ongoing. Earlier this year, Bill Ackman, a billionaire hedge fund manager who had previously invested in Canada Pacific, purchased another stake in the company. Oberman described the pressure that Wall Street exerts on the railroads to prioritize cost-cutting over investment and growth is ever increasing. And a lot of these activist investors, it makes good headlines. They don't really do much of anything. One nice guy with $1 billion is not going to beat down 100 other guys with billions of dollars. It's just not happening. So it's like the good guy with a lot of money, that doesn't exist. Okay, let's just be quite honest. Let's put it this way: the good guy with a lot of money is very few and absolutely over and outnumbered by the bad guys with money. And I don't mean to drill it down in such layman's terms that we're talking about good guys and bad guys and explosions, that sort of thing. But we're talking about, again, we're trying to make it easier for everybody to understand what's really going on over here. Okay, so here's what we're talking about. This is the paragraph I wanted to get to. The railroads claim that they had made up for their lost workers and capacity cuts with gains in efficiency. In recent years, they've introduced some technology and forced the remaining employees to accept new work rules under a system known as precision scheduled railroading. As Buck explained, this meant running faster, longer trains and skipping on service. Let me see if I can actually highlight that. Oh, so that highlight now appears. And skipping on service, spare capacity, system-wide resilience, and safety. It is largely because of this new bare-bones system that the railroads were so reluctant to give their workers paid sick days. If a conductor or engineer calls in ill or at short notice, the company has to find a backup or replace the absentee. And this can be costly or difficult. Again, it's not like somebody called out, at the Publix or at the Kroger or whatever, which, by the way, Kroger sucks. I'm just going to keep repeating it. Kroger sucks. Publix is by far the superior supermarket. But alas, I do not have access to a Publix here in the great Hoosier state of Indiana. Quite unfortunate indeed. But anyway, it's not like a cashier or a bagger calls in sick. Okay, so you call another guy or cashier or bagger. It's not a very high skill job. But we're talking about high skill, high risk, very lucrative jobs here in terms of railroading. Well, maybe not as lucrative as they used to be, but certainly the amount of stuff that they're pulling is very lucrative indeed. Okay, we're talking about transporting fuel, transporting food, transporting equipment, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of it, with lots and lots and lots of trains. This is the sort of stuff we're talking about. But this is the thing, with precision scheduled railroading, you now have trains that are running faster, much longer trains. They're trying to cut down on the crews, right? Skimping on service, spare capacity, system-wide resilience and safety, okay? And again, because of this new bare-bones system that the railroads are so reluctant to give their workers sick paid days. I did read that, but let me just reiterate it again. If a conductor or engineer calls in ill at a short notice, the company has to find a backup or replace the absentee. Again, costly or difficult. Rather than compromising on paid sick leave, the railroads agreed to raise pay and hold the line on contributions to employee medical plans. That stance indicated just how important maintaining an ultra-lean and ultra-flexible staffing system is to their new business model. Okay, and it wasn't that much that they actually raised their pay or anything like that. And look, what's so wrong about asking for 7 days of paid sick leave? Okay, you work on a very high-stress job. Far from rolling back precision scheduled railroading, the new labor agreement that Congress has imposed formalizes elements of it, including the introduction of self-sustaining pools of workers aka the kind of scab workers, as those will give managers more freedom in scheduling crews and replacing absentees. The locomotive engineer, Ross Groders, who is the co-chair of the Railroad Workers United, a cross-union caucus of railroad workers, explained the significance of this change to the website labor notes. So instead of being on schedule where you have multiple people in front of you, and you know that you're, say, the 10th person on that roster to be called, and you know that 10th train will come sometime tomorrow, which is still very unpredictable, now all of a sudden, you can get called out of the blue to go to work 15 minutes from now because they need somebody to fill a train. So again, not really helping here. This is the sort of detail that doesn't attract headlines, but it will affect the work lives of thousands of railroad workers and help keep the profits and dividend payments flowing to Wall Street. And it is certainly only a precursor for more labor battles to come. The railroad companies are already pushing to reduce train crews from 2 to 1. I'm glad this guy whoever wrote this, let me just scroll back up over here. Now my mouse doesn't want to work. Here we are. John Cassidy, he definitely did his research in this. So, yeah, and it's only a precursor to more labor battles to come. The railroad companies are already pushing to reduce train crews from 2 to 1. With autonomous control systems making rapid advances, it surely won't be long before the companies try to introduce unmanned freight trains. Over in Australia, autonomous trains are already carrying iron ore hundreds of miles for the mining giant Rio Tinto. Remember the introduction to 2019. The documentary that I did, I opened up with the Rio Tinto coal train. Okay, basically the largest autonomous system ever devised by man. The trains are massive. Trains are the largest single object that mankind can move on land, right? But now you have it that you can be able to have the train run by itself, which it's a lot easier to autonomously run a train than it is to autonomously run a truck. And I do guarantee this, before we see autonomous driverless trucks, we will see autonomous driverless trains. Well, we've already seen autonomous driverless trains, okay? But it's just going to get worse. They're trying to do everything they can in order to cut costs. And while they're cutting costs, they're cutting themselves big checks. Big checks. And that's the problem here, is that this very massive disconnect. Okay? I forget who said this, and it's definitely nowhere on my mind right now. It just popped up. But there was I don't think it was Isaac Asimov, but I know somebody who is related in the science, sci-fi, fantasy industry, because I love sci-fi books and stuff like that. But this guy said that the factory of the future will be run by one man and one dog. Okay? The man is there to look over the machines, and the dog is there to make sure that the man doesn't press any buttons, because they'll have it run autonomously, right? So that's what they're looking at. They're looking at trying to cut as much cost, and the biggest costs that they see that they want to get rid of is the human beings. They don't even call it people anymore. They don't call it people resources. They call it human resources. It won't be that long until they call it Homo sapien resources. The humans. The humans need money. The humans need to live. Humans. This is how some of these people look at it. They look at you like you're the dispensable, little guy on StarCraft, walking into a Zerg rush and then just getting, blasted away. That's what they see you as. They see you as little numbers on a screen. They see you just like they see the money, little numbers on a screen. They don't see you as a living, breathing person with a soul. I would say to stop treating them as living people with the soul too, the other way around. But then we'll go into we'll start Fed posting at some point. American Rail Club shut down for Fed posting. But yeah, this it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Oh, for our poor cousins across the pond, our poor Anglo brothers and sisters across the pond. you guys are in for it. So the UK is certainly going to rail strike. It definitely doesn't seem like it's going to be cut off by their parliament over there. They're walking off. More than 40,000 rail workers are due to walk out on December 13th to the 14th. See,
they're being nice about it. They're being prim and proper about it. They're giving you dates. We're going off on strike on the 13th and 14th. Then we'll be going off on the 16th and 17th, and then after we have a little break, some tea and crumpets afterwards, we'll go off on Christmas. We'll have, well, everybody else is having a break. We'll have a break on the 24th to the 27th, and then on January 3rd to the 4th. And then maybe afterwards we'll be on the 6th and the 7th, and we'll take a break off on there. You know, they're being prim and proper. Whereas here in America, we'll be like, F it. We're taking a strike, and we ain't coming back. We ain't coming back until we get this done. We're striking and we're striking. Oh, I'm sorry, Congress. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm sorry, Daddy Government. I'm sorry. I'll be a good boy. I'll pay my taxes. I'll be a good boy. That's Americans now. I wish they were like what I said. Oh man. Okay, so for the guys who are asking on Discord, I'm sorry that I've been going on for so long. Let's give it 9:30. We'll put in the speakers on Discord, and then we'll call it a night. Okay, I don't expect to be that many people on Discord at this moment. There's one person with their hand up, so we'll probably go quickly through the calls. And again, usually it'll be 5 minutes, but let me finish through this. I'm on a roll here, and this funny thing, guys. I've been fasting the whole entire day. I've only had one meal, which was earlier. Now, like before I started the stream, so I'm running on absolutely nothing over here. But yet, I still have a lot of energy. I don't know how, but these, fastings on Wednesdays and Fridays, I tell you, it does wonders for your system. So the RMT, the British Railroad, whatever it is, RMT. Railroad something transit, whatever you lineys call it. Okay. Again, I mean that with love. You know what I mean. Said it rejected a pay raise offer of 4% in 2022 and 2023 from train operators aimed at heading off the strike action. They can't even deal with 4%. A 4% raise? Really? You can't do that? RMT said on Wednesday it heard from the rail delivery group, which represents train operators, that there will be no revised offer. So they're striking. That's basically what's going on. The Christmas rail strike go ahead as union rejects offer from the operators, as firefighters could become the latest to walk out over pay. Oh boy. So that's going to increase have concerns for safety. So it says the proposed framework would have supported pay increases up to 8%. We're not going to give you 4%. We're going to give you 8% actually. Probably not going to happen. They're saying that just to get them in. Well, we'll talk about 8%. No, don't worry. I get it. You guys want 4%, but we can settle for 3, and then we'll just keep talking. Maybe walk it down to 2. And then maybe at some point, we'll settle for 0.5. I think we can all agree on 0.5, right? It's basically what happens at this. So here we are. They can be joined by more than 33,000 firefighters and control room staff who will start voting today on whether to strike over pay. Oh boy, it's going to be fun over in Britain. It's not like it's not like the trains are arriving on time anyway. So the RMT said the RDG is offering 4% in 2022 and 2023, which is conditional RMT members accepting vast changes to working practices, huge job losses, driver-only operated trains on all companies, and the closure of all ticket offices. Mr. Lynch added, "We have rejected this offer as it does not meet any of our criteria for securing a settlement on long-term job security, a decent pay rise, and protecting working conditions." So is it 8% or 4%? I'm not quite sure. So now it's just been going back and forth. But that's where we're at. But yeah, again, here's the severe disruption, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Wait, now the dates here are different. And this when did this come out? This was Tuesday. This was Tuesday. And this was today on Wednesday. Tuesday, December 6th. At least you all Yanks don't have the Call of Duties in the schools where you get shot in the skills. I like that meme. That's funny. Oh man. Yeah, this is it's getting pretty fun over here. Oh man. Okay, so RMT is the railroad union again. So passengers are being warned now. Next week, this is according to the BBC. Passengers should not travel by train next week because of the strikes. So it's just getting worse. So they actually are going to strike in Britain. So finally some chaos. I can't wait to see it. By the way, I haven't had any alcohol either. This is a LaCroix, and there's no, it's not spiked. There's no vodka in it. This is just regular LaCroix, man. This is whole energy for me. It's like Alex Jones energy going on right now. If Alex Jones did anything on trains, not that we're going to talk about whatever happened last week. That was woo. We're not going to touch that. Oh man. Like, this is American politics now. I'm enjoying the chaos. That's you know what? At least it's fun. You know, enjoying the clown world. So yeah, this is what we're seeing. Basically, I'm not going to touch too much on that. And we've talked a little bit more about precision scheduled railroading. Honestly, I had like 5 different articles talking about precision scheduled railroading. Can this thing X out? Oh boy. Now we're gonna have to go to archive today for this. Let's see. Oh, archive today is not available. Okay. Well, that sucks. I just wanted to see my article. Okay, archive.md is working. Yeah, man. Okay, let's paste that article there. Start. We have some good articles. We have some bright line copium to get us going. Here we are. Oh, somebody archived it 2 weeks ago. Whoever did, thank you. Probably somebody from the club definitely did this. But we will talk about that. Last thing about precision. Oh wait, are my highlights coming back? My highlights are kind of here. Okay. Anyway, let me just talk about this one thing, talking about what is precision scheduled railroading. This was something I want to talk about. Railroads claim that PSR makes their networks more efficient and service more predictable, which it hasn't made them more predictable, thereby making them more attractive to intermodal customers. However, this focus on the Class 1s is cutting through the removal of capacity. Locomotives and employees raise serious concerns about PSR's long-term effects on the rail network and customer service. It also calls into question whether these railroads are truly focusing on attracting new business with less capability to do so due to these extensive cuts. And we saw the fruits of that labor of what's been going on over here, right? This is just what's been going on. Again, I had a whole lot of things highlighted here. I'm not going to go start reading through all of this again. After I've been working all day already, so it's like, you know, on top of my regular work, which I shouldn't be complaining. I'm working from home. I can't be complaining, right? But anyway, yeah, and there's some more commentary here, the good and bad of precision scheduled railroading. I had this already. But anyway, all right. So some good bright line news. It looks like that they are going to start construction next year. As it looked like, they did say they were going to start construction by the end of this year. They're saying now it's going to start by next year. Okay, which I said that was going to happen anyway. And I'm not coping here or anything like that. That's just what it is. We're still waiting for the FRA to go ahead and give public comments, so that's the thing. The FRA will continue to invite public comments on the proposals until November 28th. Project permits are expected to be finalized by March 2023, and hopefully there will be boots on the ground and shovels in the dirt. That's what we hope by then. Brightline West expects to offer a journey time of approximately 2 hours and 15 minutes, operating at a top speed of 290 kilometers an hour. That's 180 miles an hour. Well, close to 180 miles an hour. But anyway, so that's at least one good thing, right? Something going in terms of passenger rail. And now I can't see that. Okay, well anyway, I have this all available and everything, and it completely messed me up. But Brightline is going to be opening up the Boca Raton station, start working on the Boca Raton station starting next year. And Brightline got some a paltry amount of money to help them. And, hey, whatever helps, right? They're going to be using the money for an online campaign to tell people to stop going on the railroad. Stop walking across on the rails. Stop trying to drive and beat a train. You're not Paul Walker from Fast and Furious, so you're not going to beat the train. Okay? You love your family. It's all about family, like Dominic Toretto says. Well, if you want to see your family, you want to keep seeing your family, you don't want to make your family sad, don't try to beat the trains. It's very simple. There you go. $20,000 ad campaign done. I'm gonna hire. Actually, no, I'm not gonna even hire. I think for $20,000, you can get what's his face who does Dominic Toretto, the actor. Darn, I'm at a thing for names here today. I gotta look it up because by the time you guys get in the comments, thanks to the keyframe things because of YouTube, it'll be Vin Diesel. There we are. Vin Diesel. Yeah, for $20,000 you can get Vin Diesel to do a TikTok and tell people, it's like, hey, people down in Miami, you love your family, don't try to cross the train. There you go. There's $20,000 done. I should be the head of marketing. Either that or get DJ Khaled. Get like some Miami celebrity. Get DJ Khaled. Another key. Don't try to cross the railroad tracks. You know what I'm saying? Or you get Mr. Worldwide. You get Pitbull to do it. Hey, come on, man. Don't try to cross the railroad tracks. You know what I'm saying? ¿Estás haciendo what I'm saying? There you go. That's it. There you go. All right. So let's go ahead. Let's see who we have in the callers. Let's get this on here. Let's get the. Okay, I'm certainly not running. Okay, there we are. There's my. Let's plug this in. There we go. Okay, and let's invite. We have one person with their hands up on the stage. Again, if any of you guys in the comments want to go ahead and call into the show, come onto Discord, come onto the live stream there. We will have you on. All right, so Dumb invited to speak. Not kidding, that is your name. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. So a couple notes I was hearing from the stream. So when I worked for two grocery stores, and one of them had a camera term. The repairman for the camera machine was telling us a story about how they were building a pipeline, and the company was using American steel. Well, and every 100 meters they would fill that pipeline with oil. Well, they were so close to finishing the pipeline, they switched to Chinese steel.
Oh, no.
Yeah. When they finished it, they filled the section, they filled it up, and it leaked.
Oh, man.
So they had to drain it, they had to empty it out and contain.
I think there we are. Yeah, it's like that should be you think that they would figure that out, that you can't have two different types of steel going at one but anyway, hold on, give me just a second, Dom. I apologize, I'm trying to get the audio here to work correctly. I'm having a bit of an issue. Let's see if that works now.
Chinese steel because it was cheaper than American steel.
Yeah, I could see where the problems they had with that, but it's just crazy, the decisions that are being made at the top in order to cut costs at whatever time they can is causing a lot of trouble in the long term. And again, a lot of these Wall Street types are looking for short-term profits, and a lot of the articles that I've seen in terms of precision scheduled railroading, a lot of them are all going to the part that and they've you have a lot of these types that have admitted that they're looking to increase short-term revenue to make it look good to the investors, so they can keep getting investors to keep pushing in.
But it's dangerous, because if you have an autonomous train, it could derail.
Yeah.
Or become an uncontrolled.
Oh yeah. Let me see.
We would have a new in real life version of Unstoppable.
Yeah. Where was that? There you are. Okay. So there was one article that I had over here. Precision scheduled railroading, and this was back in June 5th, 2020. And I think I remember pushing this or talking about this before 2 years ago. Precision scheduled railroading, longer trains means dramatic derailments. And this was back in Hunt, New York. Site of an early morning derailment on the southern tier, Norfolk Southern. 10 to 15 rail cars about 1/5 of the way into the train from head end derailed. There were no crew injuries. This was eastbound Norfolk Southern 310, a mixed train that goes from Buffalo to Binghamton every day, originating in Elkhart, Indiana. The derailed train was 22,850 trailing tons, 212 cars, and 2.6 miles long. So because we're seeing longer and longer trains, if you do have, let's say, an accident, which accidents are going to happen either way, you're going to have human error. But, if you have, more tired crew, or you have more trains, or you have, even if you have AI running the train, if you have an accident, it's just going to be an even crazier type of accident like we're seeing here with these longer trains.
Mm-hmm. And if you have a one-man crew, that man were to some reason pass out, medical, another unstoppable train that you cannot stop if it's going at high speeds.
Right, and I know. Look, yes, you can't be able to control it remotely through your control center and be able to do that. But the problem is that you need to have somebody there. Even in Japan, they've had the ability to be able to run all of their trains autonomously. But even over there, they have this respect for the worker, and they also understand that you need to have a human person on there in case of anything that the AI cannot do. I mean, because look at the AI. The AI can't even draw hands yet. In terms of the AI art that we're seeing. They can't even draw hands. So let alone we're going to start making them drive trains. Yes, at the rate that artificial intelligence is moving ahead, yes, it can certainly run a train. But you still need to have a human being behind the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We also don't want to lack one that part 2.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Exactly. All right.
That would be.
Yeah. Anything? Yeah. Anything you want to add on to there before we go? I appreciate the call.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good tackling points on that stuff. The rail strike will be interesting.
Yeah, it's just basically this is just a long delay, right? They're trying to push this delay as long as possible past the holiday season, but probably we're gonna see it back in 2023. It's going to happen. It's not going to end well because this was something that they could have already come to an agreement back in the summer and have nipped it in the bud. But because of absolute greed, now it's being pushed ahead. They're trying to push this. They know a disaster is happening. It's not about averting a disaster anymore. It's about kicking the can down the road. That's all it's about at this point.
Mm-hmm. And it will cause problems here because it will shut down everything. It will make. There's lots I was going to say. I do respect time. I think David wants to speak now.
No worries, but I do appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah. You have a good night.
You too. Take care. Okay, and next, and probably be final, I don't see anybody else in the audience with their hand up, will be David Mitchell, our resident freight expert over here. I'm certain he's got a lot of stuff to say, so we'll maybe give him a little bit more time. All right, David, welcome aboard. You are on.
Sorry for being late, but you're gonna laugh at it. I did not even realize you were live streaming tonight until I seen the notification. I didn't notice you were live streaming.
Yeah, I think a lot of people missed the notification. I didn't know if I was gonna finally do a live stream. I woke up pretty late this morning. I felt a lot better. I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this live stream today, and let's talk about this rail strike and get this going. You know, I know it would have been better to have said it a day before, but I was kind of playing it by ear. I'm definitely going to do several live streams for this month, and surprise, surprise, we'll be going down to Florida, so we'll be having some live streams down there too. I may set up a meet for everybody. I may not. I'll see it. It may be a little too much, but I'll definitely have some live streams down in Florida too.
Hey, Dimitri, PO98 tipped past my house, and he is booking it.
He wants to keep his job.
PO98, I meant. The Silver Meteor tipped past my house.
Very nice, man. Anything you want to share here in terms of the rail strikes? I'm very interested to hear your talking points on this.
Well, I've been saying that it's going to happen for me. Remember, I actually brought it up a couple of months ago, you know? Like, heck, I've been talking about it on my
live stream, Jane, called Fans of Trains. Like, I've been talking about it on there and saying, even though they delayed it, it's still going to happen. It's going to be even worse.
Yeah, and the thing is that as they keep pushing it back at every turn, it's just going to make it uglier and uglier and uglier. That it's like they're feeding the monster every single time. That this could have been just a little, cute little monster, that they could have dealt with, at this point, it kind of squeaks instead of barks, and they could have been already, picked and nipped at the bud already at summer. But now that they're pushing it to 2023. Do you think that the unions are going to be as patient as they were before? Or you think the workers are going to be as patient as they were before with inflation that's been going up and up?
Oh, speaking of that, Dimitri, me and Vel 2-year anniversary was 15 days ago.
Happy anniversary to you guys.
Thank you. We celebrated
our 2-year anniversary on the 22nd. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. I pray for you guys, and I hope you guys have continue to have a great relationship.
But I'll be honest. What I'll be on about I looked at Amtrak updated Connect Up plan, and I'll be honest. Georgia just got screwed out of a couple of commuter rail lines. Like the updated one, like it seemed like the South don't even want commuter rail. Like, what the frig?
Yeah, I know that Amtrak updated their map, and I was going to talk about that, but I said, let's talk about one topic. Let's talk about the railroad strikes and go from there. And we'll leave Amtrak possibly for this Sunday. I'll go ahead and do another stream this coming Sunday.
All right, but oh dear. Well, we might be end up doing a group live stream that day because I'm supposed to be doing a live stream Sunday.
Or maybe we can just do a double live stream or something like that. That may work.
Yeah, like a collab,
Yeah, that may work. But anyway, anything else you want to share on this in terms of any of the railroad strikes or precision scheduled railroading?
The railroad strike, I'll be
on it. I don't see anything getting better until after we get everything solved. Let it happen, Just let it happen, because if we don't let it happen, shit is going to hit the fan. Am I right?
Yeah, with already the ceiling and walls are already filled with it all over. But what's another couple of dung heaps hitting the fan at this point? When the room is already painted brown, and it's kind of at this point we're kind of already used to the smell.
But I'll be honest on it. A lot of crap that is going on right now is because we let the big Class 1, and let Wall Street walk all over everybody. Yeah,
you had Hunter Harrison go ahead and introduce something to Class 1s that was only locked away for smaller railroads, and it worked for them, but they weren't. They took it to the Class 1s, and the Class 1 bigwigs looked at it, and it was like, oh, we can take this to the extreme, which they always do. Anybody who has a lot of power and a lot of money, is not going to just take anything, as we've seen here in America. They're not going to just take it to a little bit of a level. No, they take it to the extreme.
Yeah, and I'm just going to bring it up, but I do see a lot of fallen flags in the next couple of years,
Oh yeah, a lot of consolidations, a lot of bankruptcies. That's definitely going to be happening within this decade.
I'm just waiting. What railroad are going to be the next Penn Central 2.0? Oof.
Yeah, it's probably going to be worse than that because remember when the Penn Central was falling apart. I mean, you've had some recessions, but you didn't have anything as bad and generationally as damaging as what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Because even if you look back hindsight there, of course, hindsight being 2020, the economy got a lot better, and it wasn't like they're facing the same issues that we are now. A lot of the issues that they were facing back then, let's be honest, America was at the top of the way. The Soviet Union was not at all really a threat in any way, manner, shape, or form as we thought it was going to be. A lot of the problems were really put on our end, and we just made them worse through the media or anything else, right? But now it's like these are inescapable. The problems that we have now have been so long seated, so attached to everything in the American economy that there's no escaping it. It's just going to happen, and it's going to be an absolute disaster.
Let's be honest, alright, Dimitri, I'm going to bring that up. What Class 1 railroad do you think is going to go first? What one do you think is going to go first?
I say Norfolk Southern.
Yeah, even though Norfolk Southern was good back then, I hate to say Norfolk Southern are probably going to be first to go,
Mostly because they were really the first ones to start pushing in, or was it CSX? I'm not quite sure. I know Norfolk Southern was one of the first to start pushing in precision scheduled railroading. So, and they've been having issues. It's only coded the issues that they've had before 10 years ago. Those issues have not really disappeared. It's just through the veneer, through accounting magic, their operating revenue has been so well because of precision scheduled railroading that a lot of those issues are going to come back, rear their ugly head, and really knock away Norfolk Southern. That's what I see, and it just really short.
And I'll be honest, I do blame Norfolk Southern for one reason. Like, if you look at the updated Amtrak Connect Up plan, Asheville, North Carolina gets screws out, and I know the reason why is because the old Fort Loop got rail bank. If you did think about it, with the old Fort Loop rail bank and owned by Norfolk Southern, Amtrak cannot even use it, even though they don't run trains over it anymore. It's technically the reason why they're not even Amtrak and not probably even going to use that route,
Yeah, but again, this is an issue that Amtrak could have solved if it started, like it has in the Northeast Corridor. You're not going to see this problem in the Northeast Corridor because Amtrak owns its own equipment there and has its own workers and everything else, so it's not related to anything with that. Any disruption that happens anywhere outside of those networks is, of course it will disrupt it, but it's not going to be, anywhere near as disruptive it's going to be on those networks. The thing is that Amtrak is beholden to the freight railroad networks outside of the Northeast Corridor and other places that it has to keep running those areas going, and that's why it's going to have to shut down their long distance trains when this comes ahead.
And the thing that I'll be on about, like we're probably going to lose the old Fort Loop. Like, I guarantee not CXX, but Norfolk Southern now with rail bank, I get they're going to say, oh, let it go abandoned. And, then we have, bike NIMBYs. I love bikes, but, some of the bike NIMBYs that want to tear up tracks that are very useful. Like, I will be honest, I do see the old Fort Loop. It's still useful. It's still a useful line. Even though in rail bank, they could have still used it. Like, they could have gave it to the Brewers Southern Railway in North Carolina. They could have gave it to them, you know.
You know, I know you love the bike NIMBYs, but I'm gonna be honest, I despise them, and that's a harsh term, but I despise them because instead of going ahead and pushing for walkable cities, they want to be greedy and push their stupid little hobby on everybody else. Bikes are for getting around, not for going into your leotard when you're 60-something years old, having your old wrinkly, self scrambling out of there while you're going ahead on the road pretending and LARPing like you're in the Tour de France. No. We're the only country that does this. You go to Europe and they use bikes respectfully. You go to Asia and they use bikes respectfully. You go here in the United States and everybody hates bikes. Why? It's because of the behavior of most bikers. I'm sorry, but it has to be said. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm being absolutely serious. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Thank God I'm not the only one that feels that way. I'm not the only one that feels that way, Demetrius. Thank God. It's something I'll be honest about. You're right. And I agree with it. Why I support more walkable and bikeable cities and, to redo everything, fix the F up our country did,
Exactly. And it has to be smaller, again, when cities were built organically, when cities were built organically, you can walk outside of your home, walk down the street, or walk next door and go to a grocery store, get your stuff, and come back. I don't have to be beholden to get into my car, to go 2 or 3 miles, to go to a grocery store, and then, take the stuff in there, and I'm forced to go ahead and buy, as much stuff as possible as I can, because if not, I have to go back into my car to go back to the grocery store. Now, if the grocery store was, like in many places, like in Asia and Europe, or used to be in America before, you still have some places like in New York that have bodegas, that still have that. But you used to be able to go to a grocery store. Now, and anywhere in the United States, it's why a lot of our country is overweight and unhealthy, is because they basically live in a chair every day. They go and walk from one chair to another chair to do things.
I know, and let bring it up, does Suburbia is a freaking scam, Let be honest. Suburbia is a freaking scam.
Yeah, I will be tackling Suburbia. I did tackle it a little bit with that short. Was it really worth it? What it did to America, how it transformed it. We got suckered into this deal. For a short term, the suburbs didn't even last as long as people wanted to. You still have some places with it, but it's not even large families that live in suburbs anymore. You have maybe 1 or 2 families on the blocks, and then you have these giant McMansions that are hoarded by these larger childless couples that have a little crappy dog that just yaps at every moving little thing. That's American suburbia.
Oh yeah, that is suburbia for you. And do you know who really subsidizing those people? The poor people. The poor people like us who are living in smaller housing in areas that are run down are subsidizing and paying for their way of living.
Well, everything is being subsidized. Let's put it this way. The thing is that a lot of these subsidies are just being printed out. It's not really being subsidized by the poor. It's being subsidized by our generation and future generations, because we're not going to have any of it. It's being done at our expense. We're the ones subsidizing it because we're not going to be the ones enjoying it. They're enjoying at their expense because the debt is being paid off or being taken from the future. It's being taken from us. That's what debt is. You're having money today, so you can't get it tomorrow. Okay? Get money today instead of getting it for tomorrow. So it's basically you're taking money away from the future when you look at it that way. Okay? That's why, a 20-something-year-old can't just get out of high school, get a working job, a working living wage, just like that, and be able to afford a house, be able to have a wife, be able to have multiple kids. They can't have that anymore. And then they wonder why all these kids are so messed up mentally. Well, it's because you've messed up. There's nothing to live for most of these people. There is something to live for. It's called fighting back and being able to fight for the future. But I'm sorry, a lot of millennials and Zoomers are just so black-pilled and out of it that they've given up. And they're so, their brains are so messed up in terms of because of all the SSRIs they've been pumping into them that they don't have any fight in them.
And I know, and I've been speaking to a lot of people. Let's be honest, I've been spreading the word at my Walmart to customers and stuff, and a lot of people are actually agreeing with me, Like, I actually have educated a lot of people on why we need to get rid of suburbia and why we need to bring back rail transit. I brought a lot of things and been spreading the word, and a lot of people are agreeing with me,
Yeah, I think once that's the thing. This is why I'm not black-pilled on everything. Yeah, things are gonna get bad. Things are gonna get worse. Absolutely. But you know what? In the end, I'm looking. I'm not looking 5 years from now. Okay, I'm not looking even 20 years from now. I'm looking 50, 100 years from now. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at future generations. What I'm doing now is so that somebody else down in my lineage or somebody else can be able, down the line, be able to enjoy it and also work for it for themselves. I believe, I forget where it was, if it was a biblical code or not, and I do read the Bible, but I don't know if it's in there. Blessed is the man who plants a tree that somebody else 100 years from now will be able to enjoy the shade of. But this is the thing that we're talking about, right, is being able to, support and think long term. That's the sort of vision that we're trying to get. Everything that we're seeing happening now is because of short-term greed. The rail strike can be pinned down, the reason why, in one term. Short-term greed. Exactly.
And here's something else I bring up. Like, D-Class 1s, like, they're going to face the consequences when it did that. It won't be under Biden because Biden showed a true color when he decided to defend the BS, The moment he decided to defend the Class 1s with it, all that happened, moment he showed a true color. And a lot of people are upset. Hey, the Republican and Democrat, I don't trust both sides anymore. Screw both of them. They showed how much they care about people in the country, what they really don't. They only care about money. They both voted on not to allow the strike to happen, with proof on what side both of them really on. They don't care,
Yeah, and I said this before. Honestly, I don't think it's even him making the things. I think Biden has been out of it for years anyway. It doesn't matter who's really making the decisions. The problem is it's the uniparty, it's the corporatocracy, the kleptocracy, whatever name we want to give it. Okay, kleptocracy, corporatocracy, whatever. Okay, the stinkers at the top making the decisions. That's what's going on. That's who's making it, okay? Whatever name we want to give it, whatever euphemisms we want to throw at it, it doesn't matter. The result, what we're seeing, is because you have a large, let's put it this, not even a large group of people, you have a tight-knit, large, group of people that are making decisions for everybody at the expense of everyone else. That's the thing. It's for their benefit at the expense of everyone else. But anyway, last word, David, before we start closing it off.
Well, here's about Teddy Roosevelt tried to prevent this from happening.
Like, he's seen something like that could have happened. Even Roosevelt, them two presidents seen that it could have happened, And they warned us. And now look where we are,
Yeah, and it's something that there's really not that many historical precedents for what we're going over. I mean, the historical precedents we're looking at are we're looking at decline and collapse of empires level sorts of precedents, but we don't have anything for the modern day to look at of which sort of direction we're going through. We know what the solutions are, but we're so far removed from actually being decision makers and so far removed from actually having any sort of significant power in order to really connect with those levers and change anything, that we're just sort of along for the ride. Now, we do have control over our own lives, over our own little local area, over our own families in order to make decisions there. And honestly, the best decision that we can make right now is to disconnect ourselves as much as we can so that whatever happens at the top and ripples down to the bottom doesn't affect us as much. It's going to affect us. The prices are going to affect us. The inflation is going to affect us. But, for example, if I can plant something today that I'm going to have 5 years from now, I won't be starving 5 years from now. So I have to think that way. Okay, if I'm going to have a family by then, another mouths to feed and stuff like that, I have to start thinking that way. And that's what everybody else has to start thinking for themselves too, and helping each other.
And also, like when we do the collab this Sunday, we are going to bring up a lot of stuff about it. Am I right, Demetrius?
Yeah, we'll talk about it before during the middle of the week. I have a Discord running, so just hit me up on there, man. Maybe we can bring Ruben in too, so he can opine over from across the pond in Belgium. Yeah, well, we'll do that, man. Anyway, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, man.
No problem, man. Talk to you later.
All right, take care. All right, everybody. Thank you. Okay, so I think that'll be the end of that. We're going to leave the stage over here and then disconnect over on the stream. But yeah, guys, this is what we're going for. But very disappointing decision from the Biden administration, from Congress. That the plan that's supposed to be the protocol that was in place was absolutely superseded, so they can go ahead and make their own decision. Again, this is all happening because of short-term greed. Now, there are some bright spots. There are companies, very few. There's only one bright line that we're looking at here. There's not that many. Looking to construct something so people can have in the future. We're talking 5 years from now, okay? Now, hopefully not long-term construction. We're not talking about long-term, like California High-Speed Rail Authority sort of long-term, thing that we're looking here. But at least we're looking at getting somewhere, right? This is what we need to start looking at in having those sorts of things within our communities. Again, get involved in your local communities. Start looking at Department of Transportation meetings. Start getting involved with that. Start pushing for rail, even if they're not having anything rail related. If you want to make a comment and start talking about, don't start going ahead and screaming autistically about it. Even though a lot of us here are actually on the spectrum, I understand, but you have to be professional, okay? And I've shown you videos of that. You can look back on the American Rail Club, okay? Now you have to look professional. Dress professional, talk professionally, and be kind of aggressive, okay? Just because you're young doesn't mean that you should be trampled over, okay? Do not let yourself be trampled over, okay? If you gotta, start working out, start buffing up so you look a little scary, then yeah, start doing that. All right, but anyway, guys, thank you all so much for coming on board this edition of the American Rail Club ARC stream. We will see you all next time, hopefully on Sunday. Good night, and God bless. Godspeed.